You wake up when your body is ready, with no alarm, no schedule, and no place you have to be. You sit up, stretch, and ask yourself one simple question. What should I do today? For nearly 300,000 years, that wasn't a fantasy. It was everyday life, and the answer looked nothing like the world we live in now. Today, the average person spends around 90,000 hours working. Nearly a third of your waking life belongs to a job. But for almost all of human history, jobs didn't exist. There were no wages, no bosses, no deadlines, and no careers. So, what did ancient humans actually do all day? Let's start with what we know. In 1963, archaeologist Richard Lee studied the Hwanzi people of Botswana, whose lifestyle closely resembles that of prehistoric hunter-gatherers. He discovered that adults spent only about 2.5 days a week gathering food, roughly 15 to 20 hours in total. The rest of their time was free. And this wasn't unique. The same pattern appears among the Hadza in Tanzania, the Ash in Paraguay, and the Martu in Australia. Different continents, different environments. The same result. Humans spent surprisingly little time simply surviving, but how do we know ancient people lived the same way? Their bones tell the story. Compared to early farmers, hunter-gatherers were generally taller, stronger, had healthier teeth, fewer signs of arthritis, and suffered less from nutritional deficiencies. Farmers, on the other hand, worked harder, repeated the same physical movements every day, ate less varied diets, and died younger. Then archaeologists found something even more surprising. Art. 30,000 years ago, deep inside Chauvet Cave in France, someone spent hours painting horses, lions, and rhinoceroses with incredible detail, perspective, and movement. These weren't rough sketches. They were masterpieces created by firelight. In South Africa's Blombos Cave, researchers discovered 100,000-year-old shell beads. Someone walked nearly 40 kilometers just to collect seashells, then carefully drilled tiny holes into each one to make jewelry. In Germany, archaeologists uncovered a 40,000-year-old flute carved from a vulture bone, complete with perfectly spaced finger holes. Someone invested hours crafting an instrument simply to create music. These discoveries reveal something remarkable. Ancient humans didn't spend every moment fighting to survive. They created art, made jewelry, played music, and built beautiful things simply because they could. So, what did a normal day actually look like? You wake up around sunrise. Last night's fire is still glowing, and someone adds fresh wood. Breakfast might be leftover meat, fish, berries, or nuts. Everyone eats together, talks, laughs, and loosely decides what the day might bring. Some people leave to hunt or gather food, while others stay behind repairing tools, weaving baskets, softening animal hides, or sharpening spears. There's no clock ticking and nobody forcing them to work. Skill itself is valuable because being capable earns respect. When hunting happens, it usually isn't the dramatic chase you see in movies. Humans are persistence hunters. Instead of outrunning animals, we outlast them. We sweat efficiently, regulate our body temperature, and keep moving until the animal becomes exhausted. A hunt could last several hours, but once food was secured, the day's essential work was mostly finished. And then came the part that's hardest for modern people to imagine. People simply lived. They rested in the shade, played with children, groomed one another, made necklaces from shells or animal teeth, carved patterns into bone, took naps, and sat together talking for hours. Anthropologist James Sussman found that the Jew Hwanzi spent roughly 6 hours every day doing nothing except socializing. In a world without money, laws, or written contracts, relationships were your greatest survival tool. If people trusted and liked you, they shared food when times became difficult. Spending time with others wasn't wasting time, it was survival. As the sun disappeared, the entire mood changed. Research by anthropologist Polly Weissner showed that daytime conversations focused mostly on practical things like food, hunting, and daily problems. But once everyone gathered around the fire, more than 80% of conversations became stories, myths, jokes, adventures, and legends. The campfire became humanity's first classroom, first theater, and first library. This is where culture was born. Then everyone slept. But not the way we do today. Before artificial light, humans naturally slept in 2 separate phases. They slept for about 4 hours, woke peacefully for 1 or 2 hours, then returned to sleep until dawn. Historical records and modern sleep experiments both confirm this pattern. So, an average day looked something like this: a few hours finding food or making tools, several hours talking, creating, laughing, and spending time together, 2 peaceful periods of sleep separated by quiet reflection, and plenty of time simply existing without feeling guilty for not being productive. Then, around 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Humans began farming. At first, it seemed like progress, but farming demanded constant labor: planting, watering, harvesting, protecting crops, and storing food. Larger harvests supported larger populations, and larger populations required even more farming. There was no turning back. As villages became cities, specialists appeared: potters, builders, soldiers, priests, and administrators. Eventually came something entirely new: jobs. For the first time in history, your time belonged to someone else in exchange for resources. Today, we spend tens of thousands of hours working. Our ancestors spent far less. We make art only when we can find spare time. They made art because they already had time. We chase productivity, promotions, wealth, and success. They woke up already free, with nothing to prove. We're still the same species. But we live so differently from the humans who existed for 99% of our history that we might as well be strangers. We traded freedom for food security, leisure for population growth, and time for productivity. And most of us never even realized what we left behind.